Whereas when you were a kid, you never thought like that. Give me my Cabbage Patch doll, that's my kid. Give me my playhouse, that's my house. Give me my car, my Barbie car. Like, you just never thought like that. And you never had this imposter, like you said, a syndrome that was saying God is, gonna whoop me, because I have all this. I'm thinking it. And I'm using those examples, but it's true. It's still true in our lives today. It don't necessarily mean like cars or houses or nothing, but it could be for anything. It could be for the simplest thing. We'll come up with a good idea. God, is this your will? And I never remember, I've never forget, I heard Denzel Washington say one time, he said, anytime you have a good idea and it's not harming or destroying anyone, he said that is God's way of telling you, do it. You work in corporate. You're a go-getter, you're an achiever, and you've decided that you're not going to settle and that you are going to go to the top. Only one problem. You've hit the glass ceiling and you've been chugging and chugging and chugging away, trying to crack that ceiling wide open. You've grown a little weary and you've grown a little tired. You take a break, you breathe, and you look down, and what do you see? You are stuck on a sticky floor. I have just the person for you today. Her name is Erica Anderson Rooney. She is known as the Get Unstuck Guru, a renowned speaker and also the author of Glass Ceilings and Sticky Floors. And we're going to have an open, honest conversation. She hits a bit on systemic issues and also social issues that women face, along with gender issues in the workplace. Stay tuned, and I will be right back. Welcome to the Critical Line Network, where insight meets analysis. I am your host, IBK, and this is where conversation sparks transformation. Today I have with me Miss Erica Anderson Rooney. She is a visionary leader known for her work in enabling individuals and organizations to overcome obstacles, and she inspires infinite possibilities. She is originally from Gainesville, Florida, and she now resides in Wake Forest?
Wake Forest. Yeah, Wake Forest, North Carolina.
All right, North Carolina. And she holds a bachelor's degree and a master's in health education, behavior from the University of Florida, College of Health and Human Performance. She is also a keynote speaker and executive coach, and she shares her insights and expertise through speaking engagements and also through coaching sessions. She has a passion for empowering women, and she is passionate about helping them to achieve their full potential. And again, her hard work goes beyond just inspiration. She likes to take you from looking up at the glass ceiling to looking down at the sticky floors. Welcome today, Miss Erica Anderson Rooney. And I'm going to start this session off. I'm going to kick it off with a quote. This quote is from Mel Robinson, and then you'll take us from there. So Today the quote is, as a successful woman who has faced her own share of limiting beliefs, I understand the impact of sticky floors. Miss Erica, can you dive in today and take us on a journey? Who was Erica before? And who is Erica now after the notion of your book known as Glass Ceilings and Sticky Floors? Take us through that transition, please.
Yes, ABK, first of all, thank you so much for having me on the show today. I am so thrilled that you're giving me this opportunity in this space to talk about what I'm the most passionate about, which is empowering women to shatter their limiting beliefs and toxic behaviors to uncover infinite possibilities. And that's the book title. It's what it's all about. And I wrote this book for the little girl that I was living back in Gainesville, Florida, that wasn't sure of my worth. I wrote it for the teenager girl that I was that looked for love in all the wrong places. And then I did it for the young professional who faced a lot of sexism and discrimination while climbing up the corporate ladder. And it's really taking everything that I've learned and compiling it with my own stories and then stories of the women that I have coached along the way and women that I've mentored. And it's their stories as well. But it's a place where we can come together and share them, because we need to be talking about these things on BK, right? Like, these are the things that women, we keep held down and we keep quiet a lot. So the little girl that I was that wasn't sure of her worth, and the teenager that I became that looked for love in all the wrong places, if that little girl and teenager had known that other people were going through this, the outcome might have been different. So the Erica before this, the Erica before the book and the transformation and the tale and the journey I take you on, was really an Erica who did things for other people. I never really stopped to ask myself what I wanted. I was chasing a lot of those societal expectations. You know, I wanted the white picket fence and the 2.5 kids and the dog and the good career. And I wanted to be the mom that could have it all, do it all, be it all. And now, yes, the Erica now is much more grounded, much more sure in who I am, damn sure knows my own worth. And now I'm trying to put it forward to other women.
And you know what? That's true, because I'm going to tell you something. I was just, you know how we are. We got these fingers today where we just scroll, right? So I'm scrolling through, of course, LinkedIn, and I'm scrolling through, and I come across this title, Glass Ceilings and Sticky Floors. And it immediately stood out to me. And I was like, what is this? You know, because I have to give it to you. It is an awesome title. Like, anything that just grapples your attention, you know, it means something, you know. Absolutely. I didn't know what it was about. I didn't know the story. I just saw what it was saying. And we have a notion of glass ceilings, but we hardly ever hear about sticky floors. So of course I knew those were two opposites, and that kind of grappled my attention. And number one, I want to ask you, how did you even come up with that title? And then number two, I just wanted to let the audience know, that's why I invited her on, because I knew that title meant something. But then when I read it a little bit further into her story, of course, you know, learning a little bit about her background, I knew then that this was something that would be good for this show. Because you know what I like to talk about. I like to have honest conversations about the things that we go through in business, culture, and all that kind of stuff. And I just like for it to be open and honest, because there are so many people that they don't get to express. Let's be honest. Because society, that if you express the truth, you know how society is. You're crazy. You need to shut up. You know, something wrong with you. You know, if you express your honest truth and some of the honest things you've really been through. And so I just like it when people have a different angle, a different cut. I love it when I see something that I haven't seen before. And that was just a title I definitely hadn't seen before. You know, you see all these titles, they're pretty much all the same, but I definitely had not seen that. And so I would love to ask you, what inspired that? Like, how did that come to you?
You know, in the morning during a run, I'm a big fitness person, and I just kept thinking about my experience shattering the glass ceiling. And I just kept thinking about all the things that could have gotten in the way of that, all the things that could have held me back. And then I was also looking ahead at the next iteration of me. And I was starting to question, like, what is that? Like, I've shattered the glass ceiling. Is this all there is? And I was recognizing, that's where I started recognizing these limiting beliefs, the imposter syndrome, the perfectionism, fear, burnout was a big one for me. And I recognized that if I didn't get out of my own way, like here I was stuck. And so here I am out there running, and I'm hearing my feet hit the pavement, and I'm just imagining that I'm stuck, but my body was physically moving forward. And I was like, it feels like I'm running through like gum, through like a sticky
floor.
And then it just kind of clicked for me.
Clicked.
And yeah. Wow. And I want to,
so you had to deal with it. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
go
but I
ahead.
want
I'm
to say one
sorry.
thing
But
real
you
quick.
have to deal with that glass ceiling and then
Yes.
that sticky floor too. So good,
Yes.
good.
And the thing is like glass ceilings are real, right? Like racism, sexism, discrimination, homophobia, they all exist. And those are things that are compounded when you apply two of them, right? Like me being a white female is different than you being a woman of color in corporate America, right? It would be different if you
I got
are.
some questions for that though.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure,
We're gonna
right?
get into it. We're gonna dive into it. That's very important, like what you were saying, because we do like you look at these glass ceilings, and all of those things are real, and but there are different perspectives on it, because I look at what you call white racism now. Believe it or not, I believe that there was a time where, the blacks and different other races were going through, but I think times have changed. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I don't look at it from like when we talk about systemic racism, I look at it totally different now. Because when I look at it, I'm looking at all people go through it. I'm not just looking at one particular race go through it, because times have changed. Believe it
Yeah.
or not, they have. And a lot of times we discuss, especially in the black community, what happens to us at work when white people do these things to us. But what we don't discuss is what happened when you're black and you do the same thing, or you're Latina and you do the same thing, And so to me, it goes a little bit deeper than just, race. I get up under that belt. I like to get up under the belt because I think race is the cover, but I think motivation is the cause or the reason, because everybody wants to be successful. And so people have different behaviors that they act out when it comes to success or climbing the ladder. You understand what I'm saying? And so we like to attribute to racism. We like to say, oh, this white person did this, or oh, this person did that, because that's the cover. That's the easy part to talk about. But what happens when somebody does it to you and you're white and they're white? What happens when somebody does it to you and you're black and they're black? And so that's when I started diving deeper and I started realizing it's beyond race. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's motivation, because everybody wants something. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, everybody does
Yeah.
want
Yeah.
something, but what I would say too is it's not just race, right? It can be gender to gender,
Yeah.
right? Is it a woman thing? It could be culture to culture, right? Like I've worked in global companies before. So race is a piece of it, but there are so many different things that do play into it, because you could get a white woman and a white woman going at it or whatever, like then what is it, and then and I would be interested,
Exactly.
and I'm sure there is a science out there, ABK, that's like, what is that called? Like, what is the name, right?
Girl,
Like
I'm that science.
what is that,
I'm that
and
science.
so,
No,
but
seriously.
it's a great point to bring up.
To me, it just boils down. It boils down to human behavior. You understand what I'm saying? Like, some people have character, and then sometimes when people get in desperate situations, or whatever the case may be, the character goes awry. So really, I think it boils down to character, But yeah, I love the title. I think it's so beautiful, and it definitely sticks out. So you definitely.
Well, one thing, ABK, I want to point out about it is, like you said, we all want success, and we all want, something, right? Like we're all after something. And I think about the things that do exist in corporate America, whether that is person to person or whatever. But I think deep inside all of us is some voice of self-doubt or some voice of imposter syndrome. Like I have not met one person who doesn't have what I call a sticky floor.
That's right.
And I tell people all the time, like, I was a very young C-level leader. Like, I've accomplished a lot of damn things in my life. And yes, I have had a lot of privilege in my life, but like, I've had to work my ass off, and I've had some real shitty things too. And so like, the only thing that was really going to hold me back was me at the end of the day. And that's what I like to tell people. Like, I don't have to listen to this World Economic Forum that tells me it's going to be 132 years for pay equity. Like, bump that. Like, I'm going to get mine. Right. And so that's what I like.
I have to do. Yeah.
Right. And like, it might be harder for me. It might be different for me, but like, I'm still going to go after it.
Because, I have my moments. You understand what I'm saying? And I think mine stem from a lot of religion. Like, I'll give you one example. People will, like, when you aspire so high, there's this thought in the back of your mind that you're not pleasing God, or you're not on the right track. It's little things like that. And I think some of those things are embedded along the way. And I also believe that, yeah, I also believe that it's an energy or people who understand that and they know how to play on it too. So you're dealing with both ends. So say for instance, you deal with a fear of just I'll give something plain that people can see. You deal with a fears of spiders. So when people know you deal with a fear of spider, what are they going to do? They're going to use a spider to make you afraid, right? And so I think you deal with both ends of it. Not only do you deal with that part that you have to, like you said, deal with that sticky floor. God is not mad at you. You aspire to the higher. You're not out of the will of God. You're not a bad person. You understand what I'm saying? Because a lot of people get stuck. Like, God, is this your will? Am I doing something wrong? It's like stuff like that. Whereas when you were a kid, you never thought like that. Give me my Cabbage Patch doll. That's my kid. Give me my playhouse. That's my house. Give me my car, my Barbie car. Like, you just never thought like that. And you never had this imposter, like you said, a syndrome that was saying God is, gonna whoop me, because I have all this. I'm thinking it. And I'm using those examples. But it's true. It's still true in our lives today. It don't necessarily mean like cars or houses or nothing, but it could be for anything. It could be for the simplest thing. We'll come up with a good idea. God, is this your will? And I never remember. I never forget. I heard Denzel Washington say one time. He said, anytime you have a good idea and it's not harming or destroying anyone, he said that is God's way of telling you, do it, and it just kind of breaks that thing, because people don't understand so many people's ideas press on you.
Absolutely.
Whether negative or good. They just do. It's just that the negative outweighs sometimes. Yeah.
Well, and that is one of the sticky floors that I talk about, which is the fear of other people's opinions, right? And you can even take that further and say the fear of whatever God you believe in or universe, right? Like, that's why we talk about things like greed. It's not greedy to have more money or for women to want more money. And you know what I love about this? Like, science has shown that when women have more money, there is more good in the world, because women are more likely to donate to philanthropic charities. Women are more likely to give back to churches and communities and pour in that way, whereas men are more likely to save and invest. So that's like one of those mindset shifts that we really have to think about, because it's like, I shouldn't want more money. I should be happy with what I have. And it's like, no, girl, you are doing the world a disservice by playing small. But it's getting out of that sticky floor, moving out of that belief that is no longer serving you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And how do you determine what's a glass ceiling versus what's your sticky floor? So what is your glass ceiling and what is your sticky floor? How do you separate the two?
Yeah, it's always that level that you're aspiring to get to that feels just beyond your reach, right? Whether you are just starting in the workforce and you're reaching to a director level and you don't think that could ever be me, right? That's the glass ceiling. Exactly. The sticky floors are those limiting beliefs and toxic behaviors that you've internalized or taken those messages in while growing up. And that is what keeps you stuck and held down, right? So if you don't believe that you could ever be a senior director, you might not apply for that job. You might not raise your hand in a meeting because you feel like I need to play small, right? If you don't know your worth inherently, then you might not ask for the money that you deserve when you go take a new job, right? Which then sets you back for the rest of your life and your earnings potential. So it's like those internal thoughts and beliefs, or the common belief for women is wanting to make others more comfortable than themselves. Women are much more likely to bear the brunt of whatever situation if it makes it better for others. We're more communal in that sense.
Yeah.
And so it's it's very interesting. It's like being able to shift your mindset on those things so that they don't hold you back from doing the hard stuff.
There you go. Yeah. Because those glass ceilings, and also sometimes glass ceilings you have no control over. I guess you can look at it that way, but you do have control over your sticky floors.
Absolutely.
Because it seems like, I don't know if I'm interpreting this wrong, but it seems like your sticky floors are the things that you deal with internally and mentally and emotionally. Like say for instance, I interviewed one lady and she was talking about how someone said to her, "You don't look like a risk manager." And she said she just like almost lost herself. She said she was young at the time, and she was like, I don't look like a risk manager. She said she just discombobulated. Like
Yeah.
she went into this
So I'm sorry. Can you help me understand what that means?
Exactly. And it's those triggers. That's what she was talking about. It's like these triggers, right? So people will say things to you, and that seed is already there. And it's like you have to pluck that seed up and deal with those things. Yeah. And so that's very good. Very, very good. The title of your book is very powerful. Can you take us, I guess you can say, on the concept of authenticity? Oh my God.
Authenticity.
Authenticities. Thank you.
I know it's a mouthful. I get tripped up on that one all the time. So
in leadership, and me, myself, I believe in truth in leadership, because I believe for so long we've been in this, even you can see it in our politics. We've been playing this blue and red game for so long, and our country is at this crossroads. And you hear all these voices like you've never heard before, especially with social media. Like you see people in the uproar, you see different races in the uproar, you see black people who are saying to other black people, we're not going to vote for you because you're black. You got to be saying something, you're not, or you see people saying, we're not going to vote for you just because you're Democrat or you're Republican. People have more of a voice now, and they, people are looking at things differently now. So I really wanted you to touch on, how your book, especially with authenticity, in leadership, how does your book play a role in that? And just in truth and with our leaders in today's world, like how can your book help them?
Yeah, I think for so long, people have felt like they had to show up to fit a certain mold and to play a certain part. And that wasn't realistic for anybody, right? And I have this exercise that I do with a lot of my clients, and it's like, I want you to tell me 5 very identifying things about you, right? And so for me, I might say I'm a mother, I'm an author, I'm a wife, I'm a dog lover, and, I love football. And then if somebody told me, great, you have to leave 3 of those things at home when you walk in the door. Which 3 are you picking? And that's a hard question because those are very, I would not talk about my kids. They're a huge part of me. I would not talk about, my love of fitness or football. Like those are things that are part of me. So when you talk about authenticity in the workplace, it's about being able to bring your whole self to work in a way that you are confident and comfortable with, right? I don't think you need to show all your mess in the professional setting, right? But you can show up as who you are and be true to your core values in the workplace.
Exactly.
When leaders struggle with that, that's when there creates that distrust and you're getting those toxic cultures and business just fails. So for me, it is an absolute essential, and you can tell real quick when people are not being authentic. Like it just doesn't ring true. And then you lose all credibility.
Hi, everyone. I want to thank you so much for tuning in and watching this episode. I hope that you're getting some nuggets out of it, something that you can take that is practical, that you can use. And I also want to remind you that that book, Glass Ceilings and Sticky Floors, is on Amazon, and you can also go purchase your copy. I am pretty sure that there's something inside of there as a woman who works in corporate America and you aspire to the highest that you can bear witness to, but that you can also garner from and continue on your journey. But I also want to stop and remind you that hit the like button, subscribe. Also, share this with someone that you know, because you never know who you may bless and touch just by sharing today. And if possible, go ahead, check me out, PayPal me. You can donate, and you can also hit me up at Cash App. The information is in the bio. I need all the support that you can give to continue this channel and to make sure that I am able to not only bless your life, but to bless the lives of others. So let's continue on. Yeah, because in leadership, especially in our culture, because I love to deal with what we're dealing with as a whole in America. And it's true because really, when you look at society, you see people people talk about Kamala and Biden. We know that they're not being authentic, when they're saying, over here eating the greens, and like, that's not who they are. Like, we know that Kamala did not live 20 years of her life like that. Now, do you have people like that? Yeah. And you have people, they eat their greens, they from the South, they talk a certain kind of way. And so it's true. It's just what you said. So when you see people doing things like that, they get offended, because what they're saying is that you're trying to cater to who you think we are, and we're not all of that. And we're trying to ask you, what are your policies going to be, And so that is so true. That's why I asked you that question about leadership in America today, because it's very important. I think it's important that we find ourselves again, not just on an individual level. And I'm pretty sure some people have achieved that journey like yourself, but also on a national level, where politicians can get to the place where we don't judge them harshly, and they can be themselves, and they can share, this is who I am, this is what I stand for, either you like it or you don't. You understand what I'm saying? I hope that one day, like, our country can really get to that place, like, because politicians are humans at the end of the day.
I know. I'm thinking
like
about
you
what
said,
you're saying, I'm just like,
they just been trying to fit a role. It's a role that's been passed to them from generations to generations. Yeah. Get out there, be the face, cater to the people. But leadership is way more than that. You understand what I'm saying? You're leading a whole nation of people, and it's just way more than that. And it's my hopes that this nation, some of the leaders and some of the people will really recognize that that's old school, and that even though you can stick to the Constitution, you really can be yourself. You understand what I'm saying? And just decide that, hey, I can't live like this. I can't live in this little sticky floor anymore. I gotta break free. I gotta break free, and I gotta do me. I gotta do me and stand for what I stand for. So hopefully they can get to that point. But like you said, people just been playing a role, even in corporate, on our jobs, everywhere. Everybody just plays a role. Yeah. And
Absolutely.
So hopefully we can tap into more authenticity.
Yep. I mean,
but anyway,
think about it though, obviously, when you're talking with people and you really connect with them, you don't connect with them because they're perfect or they're the perfect ideal.
That's right.
Whatever. Like, you connect with people because they're perfectly imperfect, just like you, because you know your flaws. You know you're perfect. I know I'm not perfect. I wrote a whole dang book on sticky floors, So it's like, when we share, those people see you and they say, oh girl, me too. Like, okay, and that's when you form the connection, the trust, and you create that authenticity.
Yeah. You also talk about, one of your themes in your book is perfectionism. And I know a lot of people who definitely have struggled with that. They either struggle with laziness or they struggle with being so perfect. It's like this extreme, right? Yeah. And so you rarely find people who are just laid out, in the middle, balanced. That's a rarity. But what advice would you offer women who struggle with that? They can be young or older, just starting their careers or in the mid of their careers. But what type of advice would you offer them, because they have a journey ahead of them? So
depending on how your perfectionism shows up in your life, because it's very different for everyone, we're all unique, is test your boundaries and make yourself uncomfortable. So for example, if you are a person that has to have your house looking a very perfect certain way before you leave the house every day, leave the bed unmade. Go to work and know that you have left that bed unmade. It is a small thing, right? It is a mental thing, but you have to prove to yourself over time that nothing bad happens if I don't make the bed, right? And prove to yourself through baby steps, and then you can take bigger steps of it's okay to not be perfect. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to let this side of me show. And then if you're really struggling too, the other thing I always tell people is, play the worst case scenario game. So if you're thinking, I've got this presentation, I need to turn it in today, but it's not perfect. What's the worst that could happen? Right? Are you going to get fired over a presentation? I mean, if you are, you might want to look at that again, right? But if you're not going to get fired, what's the worst case scenario? And play that out. Because you might waste 3 hours of your life on a PowerPoint presentation that your boss is like, oh no, I'm sending this out to get professionally revamped. Who knew?
Yeah.
You know?
I heard Beyonce talk about that. She talks about that. She said, because people be like, girl, you're just such a hard worker, and on the stage, you're just driven. She said, but yeah, in my personal life, my house is a mess. Like, she's honest about it. She like, girl, honey, it's just a mess, you know, like,
Yep.
like she said, when it comes to, she said, but when she go in, clothes here, this, you know, it's just a mess, you know, unless she, of course, pays someone to do something for her. But she's just showing you that other side of her, you know, like, she's driven in one part of her life, but in the other part, it's like, you know, whatever. So that is true, because I think people, and what I wanted to ask, because I wanted to tie it into glass ceilings and sticky floors, because I believe that glass ceilings, like these expectations you have of breaking these ceilings, play into perfectionism. Like the idea is like you're trying to get everything right, you're trying to make sure it is, because you're trying to reach that pinnacle. And then also the sticky floor, you know, you're trying to overcome that past judgment or whatever it is that you're dealing with. I think both of those play a part in perfectionism, if you ask me. You know, they're bondages, you know, are ideas that one is ensnared to and entrapped to, that makes one think that I got to get this right. Like, this is my one shot. I got to do this, like ABCD. I think those ideas of what we deal with on that sticky floor, and like you said, those glass ceilings, I think they do play a deep role on a psychological level into, you know, that perfectionist type attitude, and even laziness, because laziness has been linked to fear and to, you know, or just, I'm not talking about the kind of lazy where you just don't want to do nothing, but that kind of, I guess you can say more procrastination is what I'm maybe trying to say, is linked to, you know, I'll get to it, you know, or, you know, it's something psychological where you feel that it's not going to succeed. So you psychologically kind of procrastinate on things and stuff like that. You know, it's just all these twists of ideas and events that is, you know, that is up on the human psyche, I guess you can say. So I think that book definitely would probably address a lot of those types of things like that.
Well, thank you.
Now, you talk about gender.
They could get it on Amazon.
Yeah. And gender inequality and systemic barriers in the workplace. That's definitely what I wanted to talk about today, because I know you know about that, and I would love for you to share a little bit about some of the things that you went through and how that has evolved. Because like I said earlier, I don't think it's just man on woman. I've seen a lot of women. I worked in corporate since I was young, and I've seen a lot of women attack each other now. and I've also seen when people talk about race, because Black people get upset with me all the time, because I tell them, I said, I'm so tired of y'all talking about racial systemic, you know, issues. I said, when you know behind closed doors what Blacks do to other Blacks, you know, and it is the same exact thing, same behaviors, has nothing to do with race. And so, but I definitely would love to you to share some of your insight into that, and with the audience, to allow them to see, like, what are some of those things that they may be dealing with, and how they can, you know, how your book maybe addresses those things.
Yeah, I mean, it is alive and well today, right? For sexism and things like that. And I think it's different than it used to be. You know, like, we've made some progress, but we haven't made enough progress. Certain industries are worse than others. I certainly have experienced sexual harassment, inappropriate things being said to me as I've climbed the ladder. I've been hired based off of my looks and not based off of my intellect. So, like, all of those things happen, right? And much worse things happen to other women who are out there. And the best advice I can give to somebody is say something, right? Like, let's shift the blame off of women, and let's shift the blame onto the men who are, you know, doing these things and having discrimination-based hiring or questions or anything like that, right? Like, instead of teaching women to cover their drinks, to check to see if there's, you know, make sure they're not spiked or something, why don't we require all men who are buying women drinks to test the drinks in front of a bartender? I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like, why is it when there's a rapist on the loose that it's women who have a curfew to try to be in, when it should be, you know what, no men on the streets? How about that, right? Like, There's a
Yeah.
great book out there called Fix the System, Not the Women. And it talks all about how, like, we always try to say, like, well, don't dress like that. Don't act like that. No. Like, we already talked about authenticity.
Fix
Like,
the man there. Because
you don't act like that, right?
Exactly. I say that all the time. I tell people all the time, people who like to steal, like they like to just take things from people and steal. I said, listen, I don't care who has a bad attitude or who's doing what. That doesn't make you steal. If you steal, you're stealing because it's your character. You're a thief, you know.
Right.
And so it is with the women. Like, just because she dressed like that, you're not supposed to just reach out and do something. If anything, you say, hey, you know, I won't touch her, you know, because she's dressed like that. Not that you would do the opposite, you know.
Right.
So you're right. You fix if you know on something,
fix the system,
fix it,
not the
you
women.
would have to fix that man. Exactly.
Yes,
exactly. What role do you believe that companies and leadership play when it comes to dismantling these sticky floors?
Huge role.
Because again, you hire humans, and humans come with sticky floors.
Yep.
And do you believe that it's the company's responsibility, or do you believe it's the person's responsibility when they're dealing with sticky floors? Because remember, glass ceilings is about the company, but the sticky floors is your own kind of, So do you believe that companies play a role in that? And
I believe they should.
Or do you believe that they should? I
believe they should. I believe it's the right thing to do in many instances. Like, I don't think it's required in all instances, but in many instances, I think it's the right thing to do. Right? One of my sticky floors that I have in there talks about alcohol and addiction. It is no way a company's fault if someone suffers from alcohol and addiction. That's just not feasible, right? But it's the right thing to do to help an individual like that. So it's kind of one of those
because
things
you hire humans.
Yeah, you hire humans, and humans come with sticky floors. So, you know, do they have to? No. Should they? Most likely, yes, depending on all the situations. Of course, there's always shades of gray, but I believe in helping humanity. So my answer is heck yes.
Yeah. And most companies, I think they're kind of doing that now with the counseling and all that kind of stuff now. They definitely, some companies, I know real estate companies, because I worked in property management. So I know a lot of those companies have that type of environment where you can go to private counseling and all that kind of stuff. Now, when it comes to your glass ceilings, what do you believe leadership is responsible in dismantling? What roles do you think they should be playing? You know,
they
what
need
advice
to be very well aware of like what their stats and their numbers actually are, right? Like, don't tell me you're 50% female if it's really 60-40 or 80-20. Know your stats, know your weaknesses, always have, you know, training on bias and unconscious bias and known bias, right? Because you can have a known bias, it's still a bias, you know, you can have an unconscious bias you're not aware of. But they play a huge role in getting in there and examining and looking for trends, right? Like, that's something not a lot of people think to do, is like, you need to examine the trends. Who's leaving? Why are they leaving, right? Who's staying? Why are they staying? And if you know that information, you can really uncover what's going on.
Erica, let me ask you a question. I personally do not believe, because I love to tell the truth on this show. I've experienced a lot, but I personally do not believe that DEI is going to be something across the board in corporations. I just don't believe that. And let's give an example, not even in churches, not even in anything. And I guess you would ask me, like, why do I believe that? Because diversity, equity, and inclusion. Remember, people, when they hire as a company, you're not going to include everyone in your company. You're just not. Like, even at the top, when you have people at the top, you're not going to include everybody at the bottom of your company into the fold. Like, this idea of diversity, equity, and inclusion, I know it sounds good, and I know it sounds like, woo, you know, and it's a good tagline, but is it really reality? Like, let's think about it. Is it, when it comes to you, Erica, you're not going to hire me tomorrow to be on your staff. You know, like, even if I wanted to. You understand what I'm saying? Like, what people fail to realize is that people make choices. And they make choices based off of who they are as an individual, what they want, what they desire, what they don't want, and what they don't desire. So, and even when it comes to black people do the same exact things. That's why I love to take out race. Because when we talk about systemic issues, systemic is just a way of thinking, a way that people think, a way that they operate. Just that's what it means, system, you know. So when you have, like, I remember our blacks, we, you know, there are a lot of them, they complain about what happens in the system, why do white people do this and this and that. I said, well, you work in that same system and you do it to black people. So you can no longer sit and say, white's this, white. It's the same system. We all work in it. You make your choice on what careers you have. You understand what I'm saying? And how far you choose to go up the rabbit hole or down the rabbit hole. And so when I look at diversity, inclusion, diversity, equity, and inclusion, I look at the same thing. Is that really accomplishable? Do you really believe that that is achievable?
I think eventually, yes. I think eventually, yes, because I think eventually you'll continue to have a more blended culture in America, right? It will continue to grow this melting pot eventually, right? How long that takes, I don't know. But I feel like with each generation, we're seeing more and more understanding of each other.
But there's going to always be, even in a company, when you hire so many diverse people, there's going to always be people who don't include people. You understand what I'm saying? Like,
for whatever reason.
So that's why I say I just feel that I think people should find a more authentic way to deal with what they believe is a diversity problem. You understand what I'm saying? Because I used to believe what people say. I used to believe that every time I saw blacks in the media, oh, blacks are suffering, you know, we don't have these jobs and this and this and that. And it wasn't until I got on LinkedIn and I started like intermingling. I have an old LinkedIn page because I used to be in the entertainment industry. And I started seeing all these different types of investors and all these different type of people. I saw black people in aquamarine. I was like, aqua, what? You know, I saw black people. I have seen so many black astronauts. I didn't even know that many black astronauts existed. So the only reason why I say that is because I am pinpointing that what we are harping on, we haven't transitioned in mind on yet. Like, you understand what I'm saying? Like, we're still not being diverse. We're still not being honest. We're harping on all these things, but things have changed. Like, we're not in Martin Luther King them day. We're not in Malcolm X them day. So many things have changed. And when I saw this, I was like, what does the narrative need to be today? Because we keep saying this, but it can't be true. Like, when you go do your research, I'm talking about just in LinkedIn alone. I can't tell you how many people, blacks, that are in high up positions in astronauticals. And I love, I love like NASA, by the way, because when I was a young girl, in my mind, I wanted to be an astronaut. So just understanding that, when I saw that, it shocked me. My lips was like, what? Because all you ever hear is black people are disadvantaged. They don't have this and that. And it's totally so not true. So I was like, how do we transition from, okay, diversity, equity, this. Now a lot of stuff has been included. You're looking at every race now, but you're still looking at the injustices. So now what's the conversation? You understand what I'm saying? Like, how do we transition to dealing with these sticky floors? Is what I'm trying to say. Because they're still sticky floors. They're not even glass ceilings no more.
The one thing people always ask me is, do sticky floors ever really go away? And the answer is no. You know, they will always show up. They will always be evident in our life. We just get better at recognizing them and dealing with them. And so that would be my advice.
So it's just a journey. It's just a continual, development, evolvement, learning. Because I when I look at the media all the time and I see them say, I said, they don't even know, like the same thing we say that these white cops do, you got black cops do, you got Latina cops do, and nobody's honest about it. Yeah. The media is just not honest. They show you what they want to show you. But we out here every day, we see it. We see another black cop beating a homeless person or a homeless black person. Like we see these things, but those are the things that never get reported in the media because there's always this narrative that people want to paint. And so I was like, but in order for us to really bring about change, it has to be to a point where we shift from that conversation to what is happening today. And I think Neil Simone said it best. We to bear witnesses of what's happening in our time today. Like I can't tell you about Martin Luther King. I wasn't born then.
Yeah.
I can look at the videos of what you show us and read the history books, but I can't really argue that because I don't know. I wasn't there. But I do see what's happening in our culture today, you know. And so, yeah, I think that book is very, very much needed. Very needed.
Thank you so much. I'm so
guys,
glad.
y'all make sure y'all go look it up. It's right there behind her head. Glass ceilings and sticky floors. You can use it in your corporations. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of insight. You can use it in your personal life. If you're an entrepreneur, you can use that book, just on your journey, to even deal with the people that you're going to hire and to be prepared. So I think that book is very relevant for today, guys. And looking ahead, what changes do you hope to see in corporate America, and in the world, just in terms of more equality amongst just people just in general and more leadership? I guess you can say changes and opportunities. Like, how do you envision that world?
Yeah, well, what I will say, just to tie it in with the book and keep it short and sweet, is that I hope that my daughter, who is 6 years old, by the time that this book is applicable to her and, she sits down to read it because she's getting ready for her first big job, I hope she reads it and goes, what the heck is this crap? Because I hope the world has shifted.
So many changes have happened.
Yes, I hope all of the changes that we need come through.
That's exactly what I'm saying right now. I'm saying that in Martin Luther King day, the dogs being bit, all that stuff going on, all the stuff we saw on the television, what they show us. Today is totally different and things have shifted. Yes, you have a little bit of, you got these groups and that groups and you have all these people with these ideas, but we're just talking about mainstream culture. We're dealing with a different beast today. And it's all of us involved now. It's not just one race or this. And so that's what I mean by, just like you said, I hope she looks at this book and say, what? I'm looking at them people saying all this stuff. And I'm like, what? Yeah, that's exactly how I feel. Because I'm like, this is not what's happening in our society. And how do we get to the point where we can be honest as a culture of people, as business people, all kind of people, even our governments, where we can lay down these narratives of A, B, C, D, E, F, G, 1965, and really deal with today and what we see today. And I think that once we start being honest about that, I really do believe once we start dealing with those truthful things, not just blaming everything on race, not just blaming everything on your mama hit you in the head when you were 4, and all this kind of stuff, but really dealing with the truth of our glass ceilings and our sticky floors, I believe that America is going to make a great, great shift. I do.
Well, thank you so much for having me today. I appreciate it.
I want to ask you one more question, though.
Oh, one more. Okay.
A lot of times we invite people on, and there are things we miss because we're not perfect. We craft our little questions, and we're not perfect. So I would like to give you this opportunity that if there's anything I didn't ask or anything that you would love to share that you can think of that, again, I never asked or never even thought to ask, please do it at this time.
No, I think there's not. You asked a lot of great questions. I think the only thing that I would say is know your worth. Know your worth and believe in yourself. And if you do that, everything will work out.
Nice. Thank you, Miss Erica. You've been a pleasure. I know you're a go-getter. I can just tell that attitude about you. You say, I ain't gonna let these sticky floors hold me down.
Right, that's right.
I gotta get them running.
No, ma'am.
Yeah, so thank you for being such an inspiration today. And that's it. We're going to wrap it up. And you guys, again, please go check out her book. That book is, as you can see, I believe it'll speak to your heart, your life, your company, and maybe even to your children who are going to college. So go get that book, please. I am hoping that you are getting nuggets out of this show. I hope it's something that you can take with you. Remember, it is said that if you could take one thing and just apply it to your life, that it will help change the trajectory, of your life.